Hey there, folks. Welcome to HQ Spotlight on this Thursday. I'm Tommy Tran, joined by Ashley Nicole Moss. Haley Sutton, by the way, will have us covered with host duties in our second hour. But we start with some basketball talk, where NBA free agency has gone wild since the Thunder won the NBA Finals, which, by the way, was like less than 2 weeks ago. It just seems like it was so far away because we've had so much taking place, players switching teams, Ashley on every show on this network and over on HQ, it seems like. So we've kind of taken the free agency talk, put them into tiers or buckets, right? So if we asked you for a team that got better, you originally went with the Rockets, but now you've added the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Look, the Houston Rockets, we know what they did, and it's going to be phenomenal. Whenever you can add a player of Kevin Durant's magnitude to your roster, especially a young roster, it's a game changer. But I want to focus on the Nuggets because I feel like this is a team that, because they have Jokic, a lot of people feel like they always have enough. But when you really look at the breakdown of this team prior to what they did in this offseason, they have really struggled to recreate that magic that they had in the 2022 season when they won the championship. And they've lost a lot of that depth little by little in the years following. You lost Bruce Brown, you lose Jeff Green, and they don't seem on paper like big names that should make a difference, again, when you have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, but he can't do everything, and he needs a little help. And they finally got him that help without having to go into the luxury, which is something that this team, this organization does not do notoriously. They're a little bit frugal like that. But when they figured out what to do with Michael Porter Jr. and what to do with that contract, look, he was making max player money, but not giving you max player results. And that was something that the Denver Nuggets have been trying to figure out what to do with. They finally figured that out, and they got Cam Johnson, who I am a big, big fan of Cam Johnson. I'm a fan of his shooting. I'm a fan of his basketball IQ. I don't know if anybody has ever watched him on the old man in the pod, or now it's the young man in the pod since JJ Redick's kind of busy coaching. His basketball IQ, he is brilliant. And playing with Nikola Jokic and just the caliber of star that he is going to bring the best out of him and is going to bring the best out of his productivity for this team. And then, of course, you bring Bruce Brown back, the fan favorite in Denver. It wasn't going to take much to make this Denver Nuggets team better because there was already so much talent, and so much of it lies in that big man right there, Nikola Jokic. But he needed a little bit of help when it came to that depth, when it came to that bench. And the Nuggets did exactly what they needed to do for him. I'm very excited for this Denver Nuggets team.
So you like what they've done on paper in the offseason,
yeah.
But there were the comments from the Kroenke family about Nikola Jokic, the nightmare scenario that was even unsolicited. He just said, I never want to have a scenario where I'm trading Nikola Jokic. Do you think they go into the season watered under the bridge if you're 15? Do you think they're going to be all right?
I think that he said that, and it was kind of like when I said that they were going to trade, they mean the Mavs, Anthony Davis for Jimmy Butler. You said it, and you're like, dang, I wish I could take that back. That was not a good take. I think he said that, and it was not a Freudian slip, but it was kind of like a thinking out loud, and just trying to be too transparent with the media, which I think as the media we appreciate that, because a lot of the times we're trying to drag things out of front offices and coaches and whoever's at the podium, and you don't get a lot to work with. This was a little bit too far on the other side of the spectrum, but I think water under the bridge definitely, because they meaning the Denver Nuggets did what they needed to do to get Nikola Jokic help. And at the end of the day, he just wants to play basketball, win basketball games, and ride his horses.
Okay, he loves his horses. We certainly know that. Next tier / bucket, who got by your beloved Knicks?
Yeah, so I don't like the phrase "they got by" because we've been cooking and we've been doing things, but I will say this. The biggest question was who was going to be the head coach of the New York Knicks, and they got their guy, Mike Brown. And I know Knicks Twitter is kind of divided on this. I like this hiring a lot. Comes from the Popovich and Steve Kerr coaching tree. Two-time coach of the year, has coached in the NBA Finals multiple times, whether as a head coach or an assistant coach. This is a guy who I believe knows how to win. Also, a benefit of Mike Brown is he practices. And one thing against Tom Thibodeau, he didn't really practice as much as maybe he should have when it came to this team and bringing them, and giving them minutes and the feelings leading up to the games. Practice is so important, and Mike Brown really believes in practice. I'm interested to see what his coaching staff's going to look like. And then also, we're still waiting for the official word. It hasn't happened yet, but Jordan Clarkson's supposed to be signing with the New York Knicks, and that's going to help them a lot from that depth standpoint, from the bench standpoint. He's going to be a late game playmaker that can really help with Jalen Brunson. As we know, 6th man of the year. He's been phenomenal off the bench. Most bench, we see it right here, most bench points per game in NBA history. This is exactly the type of offensive punch the New York Knicks needed. And they needed a coach who was willing to go to that bench. And Mike Brown, I believe, is that guy. And the New York Knicks made that abundantly clear when they gave him a second interview. They would not be giving him a second interview and ultimately this job if he was not going to adhere to their requests, and the biggest one starts at the bench.
It'll be interesting when it plays out in the regular season, how much of that then goes into the postseason when you see some of those saved minutes come out to fruition in the playoffs, which in the East we've said now with some of those key injuries is certainly wide open. All right, now there's the what are they doing or what are we doing bucket here. You've got two teams. You've got Milwaukee and LA talking about the Lakers and the Bucks.
Well, I'll start with Milwaukee because although I appreciate the sentiment of the Milwaukee Bucks doing whatever they can to keep their man happy, and that's Giannis. Ladies, that is relationship goals. Make sure you find a man who loves you as much as the Milwaukee Bucks love Giannis. I just don't know what the end result is. I don't think Miles Turner is a needle mover. I don't think Miles Turner is a championship needle mover. I think he's a good player. He's a solid player coming off an exceptional season with the Pacers. Very surprised he's not a Pacer right now. This was a panic button move so the Bucks can say, Giannis, look, baby, I'm trying. Please don't leave me. Look, don't. I gave you something. Please, give me one more chance. I'm curious to see if this makes Giannis stay his entire contract, if he still puts in a request by the trade deadline, if we hear this sooner rather than later, if this is after this season. But I believe that Giannis ultimately will no longer be a Milwaukee Buck at some point. I just don't think that this was the move that keeps him satisfied for the long term. It's kind of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, if you will. And it's enough to just make sure the bleeding stopped and maybe his mind thinks that they can compete in an Eastern Conference that's debilitated, to say the least. But it's not a long-term fix. But now the Milwaukee Bucks are in a situation they got to go all in with Miles Turner because you're paying him a nice amount of money. You're still paying Dame Lillard. So you're paying the both of them a big chunk of cash. If you're going to do it, you got to go all the way. And this may be a new iteration of the Milwaukee Bucks. When we talk about the Lakers, I mean, look, I don't know. Like,
Ayton.
I mean, Ayton, cool. Like, yes, you needed a center. It was Ayton, it was Horford. Those really were the only names out there. But DeAndre Ayton doesn't take this team to championship contention. The biggest question is LeBron James. There's a lot of money tied up in that guy, $53 million to be exact. There's not a lot of wiggle room to create a roster that can compete, that can contend. And I think the realistic expectation for this Lakers team starts when LeBron James is no longer in the starting lineup. The next iteration is going to be around Luka. It's going to be his team. But you're kind of stuck in the mud until LeBron makes a decision of if he's staying, if he's going, if the Lakers are going to trade him. And until you come to that conclusion, I just feel like in a Western Conference, you always are going to be competitive because of Luka and LeBron. But if we're talking championship, it's not happening. Okay,
so they could be a playoff team. Dorian Finney-Smith, by the way, goes to a contender. So they, even though they get DeAndre Ayton, you're kind of stuck in limbo of being a championship contending team that Ashley's talking about. And then there's the do something category. It's kind of like that meme with the thing with the stick. Just like,
yeah,
do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
Move, yeah.
Timberwolves?
The Timberwolves are in a tough spot, right? Because this is a team that I believe is a piece away from really being a true threat in the West, but they have no money. They have a lot of financial limitations, and they brought back Nasri and they brought back Julius Randle, which is great because you want to keep some semblance of chemistry, of replication of what you did last season. But as we know, last season wasn't enough to get over the hump, and you could just see there were moments where their offense got stagnant, when their defense got stagnant, and you needed an extra piece to give that spark. And it's unfortunate because Karl Anthony Towns and this roster, when he was on it before the trade for Julius Randle, you had hope. Western Conference Finals, maybe we can run it back. Maybe we just have enough as is. And you threw a wrench in that plan once you made that trade. And now you're trying to figure out what that missing piece is. And they brought those two guys back, like I said, which is great. They just don't have any money really to go after anyone else. So they're kind of stuck, but they got to figure out what available piece they can afford because what they have is good. it's just not good enough. It's just going to be more of the same.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Mike Conley's not getting any younger.
37 years old.
And then talk of Anthony Edwards, how much more he has to go up. But to your point, he may have to shoulder more of that because of what they have or don't have, and 2 Western Conference Finals appearances back-to-back. Ashley Nicole Moss breaking it down. Ashley, really appreciate it. She also has her show right here on this network. If you missed it, weekly on Wednesdays. You can also catch it on YouTube. Scan that QR code and check out her show, Triple Threat, today.